So, before I start, just a general word of advice for commenters. If you've followed my channel for any length of time, really, you should be well aware of my general feelings towards modern Star Trek. And if all you have to contribute to the comments is, "No, you're wrong, it's shit," without offering any kind of topic for discussion, then, I don't know, maybe check out someone else's video. As I've said numerous times, I'm not demanding anyone change their opinion, but maybe at least attempt to try and have a real conversation instead of frothing at the mouth whenever someone does so much as acknowledge this show's existence. No one is making you watch it, no one is making you watch this video. I don't mean to kick things off on a bummer note, but to be honest, the way comment sections turn out for most of these videos, it makes putting together these videos harder sometimes. It almost makes me not want to do it. I love Star Trek and I love talking about it and I love talking to other people about it, regardless if they agree with me or not. And the fact the vitriol which is often spewed in this fandom is so bad when it comes to Star Trek Discovery, it made me consider just not making this video. I know this is just gonna fall on deaf ears for some people, and certain others have already clicked on this video just to make sure the world knows that they're in the camp that hates Discovery for some reason. But like, it's a TV show, guys. Maybe spend your energy somewhere else. With that out of the way, Star Trek Discovery has just wrapped up its third season, and I think most agree the show has really hit its stride. While I enjoyed seasons 1 and 2, they had some very messy plotting, clunky character development, and didn't always successfully explore their themes to the extent they wanted to. Almost all of these problems have been successfully remedied here. By jumping into the far future and taking on a new format, Season 3 manages to make new strides for the franchise and shake things up, but it also manages to replicate that feeling of exploration again. While the overarching mission is to help rebuild the Federation, we do so with each episode visiting a new planet, meeting aliens old and new, and having some more character-driven stories. Previous seasons kept the focus, character-wise, on Burnham, Saru, Stamets, and Tilly, with their alternating captains. I think it was trying to replicate that Kirk, Spock, McCoy vibe by centering things on a more tight-knit group of people. However, Season 3 feels much more like an ensemble piece. Burnham is still the overall protagonist, but many of the bridge crew are given a lot more to do each episode. I loved seeing Detmer and Awoshikun have some real dramatic material to sink their teeth into, and while the same can't be said for Reese, Bryce and so on, they were likeable enough presences in each scene they appeared in. There were also some new supporting characters I was a big fan of as well. David Ajala was great as Cleveland Book. At first it seemed like he was going to be a sort of Han Solo knockoff, but he proved to be a really empathetic and sincere character, while also being charming too. And yes, I love his cat. The second addition I liked most was Oded Fair as Admiral Vance, or as some of the internet have dubbed him, Dadmiral. But he was just a great example of your noble Starfleet officer. Star Trek doesn't actually have many Admiral characters who didn't turn out to be twats in the long run, so Vance is actually an exception. He embodies Starfleet ideals, but he's also always aware of the bigger picture, and we get that classic needs of the many versus needs of the few conundrum. Also, more David Cronenberg, please. That needs of the few versus needs of the many seems to be the main quandary which has informed a lot of the theme for this season. As we come to understand, the Federation's main flaw was that it was caring too much about the good of the faction rather than the good of those who make up that faction. It's woven in pretty cleverly within a lot of stories of this season, but we'll get into more detail about that in talking about the overall arc. I mentioned this in my premiere review, but I also appreciate how the visual style of the show has calmed down a bit. In Season 2 especially, the editing was often very snappy and the camera was almost always moving. I like the fact every dollar of Discovery's budget is on screen, but it did become tiring when it's being so flashy all the time. Here Discovery still looks gorgeous and colourful and cinematic, but it was paced better and gave you time to breathe, to really absorb the information. Overall, I think the first half of the season was stronger than its second half. As I said, I think the format did a good job of balancing traditional episodic style stories with a larger arc. That's something the previous seasons really struggled with and made them feel quite disjointed. People of Earth, Die Trying and Unification 3 were particular favourites of mine. I hope in Season 4 we get to see what's become of more classic alien species. Seeing the Romulans and Vulcans finally united was awesome. I'd love to know what the Klingons and Carnassians are up to at this point in time as well. The first first major hiccup I had with this season was with Terra Firma Parts 1 and 2. I've always enjoyed Michelle Yeoh as Empress Georgiou, and I was intrigued to know what was happening with her in the previous episodes. However, I never really got the sense that the rest of the crew actually liked her all that much, especially to the point of crying at her leaving. Her character always struck me as the rogue, the unpredictable element which the Discovery crew have to kind of keep an eye on. I never got the impression she was helping the Discovery crew because she actually liked them or thought it was the right thing. It was more like she was a victim of circumstance. She didn't want to be there really, but just kind of had to be part of the crew in order to survive. That's the impression I got anyway, so it was a little weird to see the other characters being so broken up about the possibility of her leaving. That being said, I did really enjoy Terra Firma as another trip to the Mirror Universe. I think Discovery has easily the best version of the Terran Empire. Evoking the Roman Empire so heavily in aesthetics and storytelling style evokes some sword and sandals melodrama, which I'm always a big fan of. Also, everyone in the Terran Empire has amazing makeup and costume artists. They look fabulous. Georgiou trying to change future events and clashing with the evil Michael Burnham was great stuff as well. Sonequa Martin Green should really play more villains because she's great at it. And while it was also cool to see the Guardian of Forever again, it felt a bit to me like the "my name is Khan" reveal. Like, immediately after we get this cool slow motion reveal shot, Burnham asks, "What's a Guardian of Forever?" It's a bit awkward. Although I certainly enjoyed this version of the character, entity, whatever you want to call it. From there, I really enjoyed the final 3 episodes, although I do have some gripes with them. Finding Su'Kal was a really fun spin on the trapped in the holodeck type of story. Modern VFX allowed the filmmakers to really get creative with their sci-fi haunted house idea. It was also fun to see Doug Jones acting with his actual face. When Su'Kal was revealed as the source of the burn, I have to admit I was a bit disappointed at first, but as I've had time to think about it, I like it a lot more now. This season critiques the Federation for caring more about the whole rather than the individual, and Su'Kal's ship being essentially abandoned by Starfleet because they were too preoccupied with other, quote, important things, is a solid microcosm of this problem. They forgot about this stranded family, and that came to bite them in the ass by leading directly to the cause of the burn. At first I was super confused at how Su'Kal alone could have caused a galactic disaster, but thankfully it was explained in more detail in the following episodes. Does it make scientific sense? Well, no, of course not, because this is Star Trek, and I already made a video about that. The pacing of these last 3 episodes was also a little weird. We leave Saru, Culber, and Adira on the planet, and then don't see them for any of the following episode, only for them to show up again as the B-plot for the season finale. It just felt a bit clunky to me. The final 2-parter though was great. It's Die Hard on a spaceship again, and to be honest, Die Hard on a something has always been a reliable action premise. I mean, Star Trek itself has used it before, so has Stargate, and so has the Orville, and I'm sure there are many other examples. It would have been easy to end this season with another big space battle, but it was nice to have more contained action which had larger galactic consequences. I mentioned this in the Twitter thread, but Osira was really well characterized during her negotiation with Vance. She talks a big talk, and it all sounds great and reasonable, right up until the point where she is asked to give up her power. Again, it's the needs of the many thing. She says she cares about her people and the people of the Federation, but she won't sacrifice anything of her own to actually help them. It's a clever exposure of the tyrant's thought process. Something which didn't land for me, however, was Burnham ejecting Stamets from Discovery. I understand it in concept. Stamets is too consumed by his fear for Culber and Adira, so Burnham has to remove him from the ship by force. My issue is, I didn't quite get the sense Stamets was that close with Adira, especially to the point of referring to them as his own child. I like Adira, and their relationship with Stamets was developing really nicely, but it's quite a leap to go from a mentor and pupil relationship to a parent and child relationship. From there, the 2-parter is full of great action. There's a bit of space battle fun, but it's mostly confined to the more personal action taking place aboard Discovery. The more restrained visual style also made these fights and shootouts much easier to follow as well. My gripe with it as a finale though is, I'm not sure about Michael Burnham becoming the captain. I was honestly so happy to see Saru get the big chair and thought Michael was far better suited as being the science officer with a rebellious streak. Her disobeying orders and running off to rescue Book in the episode Scavengers was another nice character-driven story point. We can understand everyone's point of view, but it was right of Saru to take away her position as first officer. Tilly being made acting first officer later on was super unexpected, but in practice I liked it a lot, although not promoting her above ensign seems pretty strange. I don't know, just the way everyone's character arcs and relationships to each other evolved, making Burnham the captain at the end just didn't quite seem right to me. I don't get the sense Burnham learned anything new which would make her more suitable to command than she was earlier in the season. I really want Saru to come back because we only got a handful of episodes of him being a great captain and I want to see more. Also, I really prefer the 23rd century uniforms. Overall though, I think this is easily the best season of the show so far. It feels like when TNG started to improve after its first 2 seasons. I could happily watch 4 more seasons of Discovery in this format, should it run for as long as previous Star Trek shows. Adam Beasley asks, what sci-fi show were you extremely excited by but utterly disappointed with when you finally watched it? The Orville initially, actually. Not anymore. I think its second season was a huge improvement, but if you've seen my review of season 1, I was really on the fence about that one. From the trailers I was expecting a great comedy, but rarely did the jokes land, and as a Star Trek pastiche, I also wasn't super keen on it. But it's vastly improved since then. And I know this isn't a new show, so to speak, but I've been really disappointed with recent Doctor Who. I really wanted to like it, and there are a lot of good elements with it, but it's a big letdown for me overall. What's all the more annoying is so many people going, "How dare see SJWs ruin everything," and all that nonsense, whereas in the real world, its flaws have nothing to do with politics. Thank you for watching. If you like these videos, subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on my new uploads. If you want to help the channel grow, join my patrons or my YouTube members, where you can see videos early as well as some other exclusive content. Speaking of which, I'd like to quickly thank all of my patrons and members who are now appearing on screen. Have a good one, and as always, live long and prosper.